Hello everybody, this video is a little different from usual. I've decided to start a new series called Warrior Cats What If, where I'll be looking at a bunch of different what if scenarios and warriors, and giving my take on what I think would have happened. I recently started watching Doglover Likes Doge's similar series on Wings of Fire, which is what inspired me to start this series. Also, by the way, I'm working on making a community tier list of Warrior Cats leaders, where I'll be taking your rankings and finding the average to make a tier list with them. So if you want to participate in that, the link to the Google form is in the description below. Anyway, on to the video. Scourge was the leader of a rogue group called Blood Clan, who tried to take over the forest territories and the prophecies began, but ultimately failed to do so when Firestar killed him in battle since he had 9 lives. But what if Scourge had 9 lives too? Scourge yowled in triumph, gazing over Firestar's lifeless body. He had killed him, and now the clans were his. But before he could think about it for much longer, another warrior leapt toward him, raking his claws across Scourge's pelt. He reacted with lightning-fast reflexes, swiping at the warrior's snow-white muzzle. The warrior screamed in pain, but before Scourge could follow up on his blow, he heard a familiar voice from behind him. "Scourge, turn and face me!" It was Firestar. But how could that be? He had just killed him. "You did," Firestar replied, "but I am a leader with 9 lives who fights alongside StarClan. Can you say as much?" For a split second, Scourge felt a flicker of uncertainty, but he ignored it. "I killed Tigerstar. Surely I can do the same to this kitty pet." Scourge leapt at Firestar with unsheathed claws, but right when he was about to strike the killing blow, Firestar leapt upward, sinking his teeth into Scourge's throat. He fell to the ground, gasping. He snarled defiantly at the ginger leader. "You will regret this," he promised. But that was the last thing he thought before being consumed by darkness. Scourge awoke in a dimly lit forest. There were leaves scattered around, and the lifeless branches of old oak trees filled the area. "Where am I?" he yowled. After a few moments of silence, a familiar dark brown tabby emerged from the bushes. "Tigerstar," Scourge snarled. "Has StarClan given you extra lives as well?" Tigerstar glanced at him with a gaze full of hatred. "No, I am dead, and so are you." "Then where am I?" Scourge demanded. "You are in the dark forest. I have summoned you here to make a proposal." Scourge listened carefully as Tigerstar explained. "I know we may have our differences, but I know that you want revenge against Firestar as much as I do, and for that reason I am proposing that I give you 9 lives, so you can go back and confront that kitty pet on even grounds." Scourge thought about this for a moment. "But I thought only StarClan could do that." "Ah, well, I have found a loophole that allows warriors from the dark forest to grant 9 lives, too." Scourge's face lit up in an evil grin. With this power, he could finally take over the clans and provide a home to all of the rogues of Blood Clan. And with that thought, he answered Tigerstar. "I accept." Tigerstar nodded and stepped forward. "I, Tigerstar of ShadowClan, give you a life for strength." As he stepped away, another warrior walked up toward him. "I, Mapleshade of ThunderClan, give you a life for determination." This repeated 7 more times until finally the last cat stepped forward, his old deputy Bone, and gave him a life for leadership. After that, the dark forest began to fade away from Scourge's vision, and he opened his eyes to see the battle between the clans still raging on. But somewhere in the throng of cats, one of the Blood Clan warriors was yelling, "Scourge! Scourge is dead!" He knew he had to act quickly before his cats retreated, so he looked around for Firestar and saw him standing a few paces away, looking the opposite direction. Seeing his chance, Scourge launched himself forward, sinking his teeth into Firestar's throat. Firestar struggled and lashed out at Scourge, but a few moments later he fell to the ground, unblinking. Scourge knew that he would come back to life, though, so he lashed his reinforced claws at Firestar's chest, the same as he had done to Tigerstar to take away all his 9 lives. A few moments later, after making sure he had finished off Firestar for good, he stood up and yowled, "Firestar is dead!" The warriors faltered and began to retreat. Luckily, Greystripe managed to take control of the clan cats and tried to lead them to victory, but without Firestar's leadership, they ultimately lost the battle and were chased out of the forest territories by Blood Clan. From then on, Scourge and his rogues settled in the forest the cats once called home and lived there for a while longer. The clans on the other paw still managed to find and settle in the lake territories, where Greystripe became the new leader of ThunderClan, naming Brackenfur as his deputy. However, without Firestar to help them, SkyClan slowly fell apart and was never able to join the original clans. StarClan was still able to find 3 cats to fulfill the Power of 3 prophecy, and the clans defeated the invasion from the Dark Forest in the Last Hope. Aside from that, with Firestar dead, many of the point-of-view characters from the modern arcs never existed, which led to much different plots and situations in the books. And that's about it. I wrote the script for this video in a couple of days, so the story might not make the best of sense, but I hope you at least enjoyed it. So thanks for watching, and as always, may StarClan light your path.